Trump commented, and it's a very interesting comment, and you have to listen to the exact wording, but he commented on JD Vance and his future role the other day when he was asked on Tuesday in SOT 7. Listen.
This weekend, Secretary of State Rubio said that he thought JD Vance would be a great nominee. You could clear the entire Republican field right now. Do you agree that the heir apparent to MAGA is JD Vance?
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with JD in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
Your thoughts on that, Andrew?
Well, we played that clip and talked about it because it's so fascinating. I mean, the question was whether he would be whether he's the heir apparent to the MAGA movement, right. Which is not to say who is the next presidential nominee for the Republican Party. Two different questions. And then in his answer, it sort of sounded like at the end of it that he was sort of alighting to the second. He says where, he would be favored. Well, that's a political term. It's always dangerous to try to parse the president's language too carefully. But I thought that was a really interesting statement. And I think, I think clearly he was answering it honestly, which he does from time to time. And he was saying that, yeah, that's what he thinks, that JD Vance is the leader. But to put Marco Rubio as a potential leader of the MAGA movement, again, that's
which, by the way, Trump always does. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I've been noticing this for a while from him. Whenever he's asked this question, he mentions both of them. And he clearly hasn't, in his own mind, made up his mind on who he really wants to pass the baton to.
Yeah, and the question, of course, is who's at the top of the ticket and who's the number 2 slot. I think those two principles might have different views.
I don't think JD wants to spend another 4 or 8 years as vice president.
Yeah.
No.
But
he's a lot younger than Marco.
Yeah. But I think that Rubio being positioned as a MAGA guy, that's really interesting because it does mean, he's about the one guy who sort of went from being a Bushy, really, to being, at the head of the MAGA movement. That's pretty extraordinary, pretty deft politics on his part.
Very. I know. I heard you guys talking about on RealClearPolitics about how, I think it was Carl who was saying, he started off as a Tea Party darling. And then he asked him, or somebody asked him, how'd you manage that? And he said, I don't know. they just voted for me, but he's maneuvered it. He went from Lil Marco, which Trump used to say, Lil with an apostrophe, Lil Marco, to mentioned in every breath by Trump as possibly the heir apparent, though this one clearly seemed to favor Vance, Tom, which, obviously I'm sure JD Vance would have been quite happy to hear him say that. And by the way, here's some more support for JD Vance as the heir apparent from CNN's Harry Enton. Take a listen to SOT 7B.
Where does he stand on this?
I'm going to quote the esteemed scholar Larry David and say, pretty good. JD Vance at 40%. There's no one even close to him. Ron DeSantis back at single digits at 8%. Donald Trump Jr. back at 7%. But keep in mind that early favorites have actually gone on to win the nomination 63% of the time, those who have run since 1980. And when you're dealing with fields that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, upwards of north of 20, and all of a sudden you're telling me that the early poll leader, who is J.D. Vance, that those win more than 50% of the time? That is why I say it looks pretty gosh darn good, or pretty good for the man from Ohio. How about vice presidents, sitting vice presidents, the last 5 sitting vice presidents who ran? Richard Nixon in 60, he won. How about Hubert Horatio Humphrey in 68? That's HHH. That's a real acronym for him. How about Bush the first in 88, won. Al Gore in 2001. Kamala Harris in 2024, won. All of the last 5 sitting vice presidents who ran for their party's nomination won. So it's not just the polling. Historically speaking, if J.D. Vance gets in this fight and he's the sitting vice president, the history books say, hey, he's got a pretty gosh darn chance of going all the way, at least to the general election, because 5 out of 5.
Tom, thoughts?
Well, not to nitpick Harry, but Kamala didn't really win. She
True. She did not even win her party's nomination. Win the nomination.
But look, he makes a good point, which is Look, JD Vance has done a good job as vice president, I think, in the eyes of Trump supporters, and Trump clearly, thinks highly of him, and I think Trump is right. He just based on if you were a neutral observer, you'd say, yeah, I mean, he's has the highest profile now. He has the highest name ID. I mean, he's going to be in pole position to win the nomination. The only reason that he might not be, or he might have some vulnerabilities, we need to know where the country's going to be, where the Trump presidency is going to be, where the economy is going to be when JD Vance, because that's always the problem, right? He's going to be basically running for a Trump third term, even though they're non-consecutive. And so that could be a real asset to him with Republicans, or depending on how things work out, it might be a bit of a drag on him. So we'll see. But clearly he is the guy, and I think he knows that. And I think Trump was sort of intimating, look, a Vance Rubio ticket would be ideal in terms of his mind
dreamy.
and the MAGA movement. Yeah.
It would be dreamy. But there's no way the guy who ran Celebrity Apprentice for all those years is going to give up the contest this early. We're 7 months into Trump in his second term. He's the star. He would like to remain the star. There's no way he is going to let somebody else become the star by naming them the heir apparent, probably until the very, very, very end, and maybe not even then. We'll have to wait to find out.
Right.
Yeah.
What
He
he's
might
been saying
decide that
lately
he's
is
going to run for a third term in the end.
Right.
he says
We don't know.
he probably won't. Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they are moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. And Birch was an advertiser on this show 12 months ago. If you had purchased then, you'd be 40% richer today. Now's the time. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by burying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold so easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898, and Birch Gold is going to send you a free info kit on gold. Look into it, see if it's right for you. There's no obligation, just useful information to help you make a decision. With an A+ rating, with a Better Business Bureau, and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.